People often laugh at it. They call it excessive. They say, it's just a dog, or it's only a cat. But for some people, their pet isn't just an animal. It's family. It's comfort. It's attachment. It's safety. And psychology has a lot to say about why. This video isn't about obsession. It's about emotional wiring. Because people who treat their pets like their children aren't confused. They're responding to something very real inside themselves. Humans are wired for attachment. From infancy, our nervous system is designed to bond, to attune, to protect, to care. Psychologists call this attachment theory, the idea that we seek emotional security through relationships that feel safe, predictable, and responsive. That need never disappears. But not everyone finds that safety in other humans. Some people grow up in environments where love was inconsistent. Affection came with conditions. Care had strings attached. So the nervous system learns something early. Connection feels risky. When those people later form bonds with animals, something different happens. Pets offer unconditional responsiveness. They don't criticize. They don't abandon you emotionally. They don't withhold affection when you disappoint them. For an attachment system that has been bruised or overworked, that kind of bond feels like relief. Not replacement. Relief. Many people don't just love their pets. They care for them in deeply parental ways. They monitor routines. They worry about health. They feel distress when the pet is upset. They structure their lives around the animal's needs. This isn't accidental. From a neurological perspective, caregiving activates the same brain systems whether the dependent is a child or an animal. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, increases when humans interact with pets. So does dopamine. So does serotonin. The brain doesn't label the bond as lesser. It registers. Something vulnerable depends on me. And when someone has a strong caregiving instinct, especially one that hasn't been safely expressed elsewhere, that instinct flows naturally toward an animal. Not because they're immature, but because they're wired to nurture. Human relationships require constant emotional negotiation, reading subtext, managing conflict, repairing misunderstandings, navigating power dynamics. For emotionally sensitive or introspective people, that labor can be exhausting. Pets don't require emotional performance. They don't expect you to be entertaining. They don't need you to justify your feelings. They don't ask you to explain why you're quiet. You can be silent around an animal without being misunderstood. Psychologically, this creates low-cost intimacy, closeness without emotional depletion. For people who have spent years over-functioning emotionally for others, that kind of relationship feels deeply regulating. Some people treat their pets like children because it gives them something they lacked earlier in life. Predictability. You feed them. You protect them. You make the rules. You ensure safety. For people who grew up in unstable environments, chaotic households, emotionally unpredictable parents, or constant uncertainty, caregiving offers a sense of control without cruelty. Not domination. Structure. They finally get to create the safe environment they never had. And their nervous system relaxes in response. Human interactions activate what psychologists call the social threat network, the part of the brain that scans for rejection, judgment, or abandonment. Pets don't activate this system. They don't compare you to others. They don't keep score. They don't silently punish you. For people with high emotional sensitivity or social anxiety, pets offer a relationship that bypasses threat detection entirely. That's not a weakness. That's regulation. Many people who parent their pets intensely come from backgrounds where love had conditions. Be successful, be agreeable, be useful, be quiet, be strong. Animals don't demand any of that. They love you when you're tired, when you're sick, when you're emotionally withdrawn, when you're not impressive. Psychologically, this creates what's known as secure attachment compensation, finding a relationship that finally feels safe enough to rest in. Not because humans failed them entirely, but because animals succeed where humans sometimes couldn't. People often minimize pet loss. You can get another one. It wasn't a person. But the grief is real. Because the attachment was real. For many people, their pet was present during depression, loneliness, major life transitions, illness, emotional collapse. The animal wasn't a side character. It was a witness. And grief is proportional to emotional investment, not social status. Psychologically speaking, losing a pet can destabilize someone's entire regulation system. That doesn't mean they're fragile. It means the bond mattered. People who treat their pets like children are often labeled as socially withdrawn. But many of them aren't avoiding people. They're avoiding emotional unpredictability. They choose relationships that feel safe, feel consistent, don't demand performance. This isn't isolation. It's selectivity. And it often comes from deep self-awareness. There's another layer to this bond that often goes unspoken. For some people, caring for a pet feels like caring for the version of themselves that didn't get enough care. They speak gently. They protect fiercely. They ensure safety. In psychology, this is known as reparenting, meeting emotional needs that were unmet in childhood. The pet becomes both companion and symbol, not consciously, but somatically. Their nervous system finally gets to experience what secure care feels like, by providing it. People who criticize this bond usually don't understand one thing. Not all emotional needs are met socially. Some are met through responsibility, through routine, through presence. Pets don't replace human relationships. They fulfill different psychological roles. And for some people, those roles are essential. Critics often say, "You're treating an animal like a child." But psychologically, the person isn't confused about species. They're integrating their caregiving instincts into a relationship that feels safe. That's not regression. That's emotional intelligence. People who parent their pets tend to have certain traits: high empathy, emotional depth, sensitivity to distress, strong protective instincts, deep loyalty. They notice suffering quickly. They respond instinctively. They bond deeply. These are not weaknesses. They are traits that simply haven't always been valued by the world. If you've ever been told you care too much about your pet, understand this. Your nervous system is wired for connection. Your empathy runs high. Your attachment system is active. That's not immaturity. That's humanity. Pets provide something therapists talk about often: co-regulation. Their presence lowers heart rate, reduces cortisol, stabilizes breathing. Your body calms around them. And healing doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like peace. People who treat their pets like their children aren't confused. They're responding to attachment needs, emotional safety, caregiving instincts, nervous system regulation. They've found a bond that doesn't demand explanation. And in a world that constantly asks people to justify their emotions, that kind of love feels revolutionary. So if this is you, if your pet feels like family, if their presence grounds you, if caring for them feels meaningful, there is nothing wrong with you. You didn't misplace your love. You gave it somewhere it could finally rest.